Since the last meeting. Members, is it your wish to be signed as a great record? Agree. Thank you. Now, down here. Thanks very much. Apologies for absence, please.
Apologies received from Councillor Cecile Evans-Swift, Diana Eden and Richard Auger, Chairman.
Thank you. Members' interests. First of all, disclosable interests. Councillor Robinson.
Just one non-pecuniary interest. So I'm on West Haven Parish Council with an objection on the very last on DA 20190063.
Thank you. So you're declaring you're a member of that parish council? Thank you. And the application in Longbuckby, a resident in Longbuckby came up to me and asked me about an application in Longbuckby. I told them what their officer's recommendation was, and there was a bit of oh, is there, and that was it. So just in case somebody does say something, that's what happened. Right, party whipping arrangements.
None.
Right, members of the public, that means we don't get together in political party groups and decide how we're going to vote beforehand, or even after.
Point of order, please.
Sorry?
Just can I raise a point of order?
You can.
Did you want to do the introduction, fire alarms, mobile phones, that sort of thing that you usually do?
Yes, I am going to. Right, and I apologise I didn't do it quicker. Thank you for raising that. Members of the planning committee and public. If the fire alarm bell does ring, please go out the way you come in. Do not try and go out that way. It does say exit, but it's not a very suitable exit, so don't go out that way. It won't be a practice, it will be a genuine fire. Please switch your mobiles off. Yes, it will cost you £10 or £5, depending on the quality of the rings and the chairman shouting. The proceedings are being recorded. Speakers will have 3 minutes, and after that you'll hear a tone and be asked to stop. And that is the only opportunity for the public to speak, so please don't interrupt during the rest of the debate. I'm sure you will. Please don't clap, hiss, cheer, boo, stand up and wave your arms. And you will see officers talking at the same time as perhaps a member of the public is speaking, which is incredibly bad manners. They're trying to find out some of the answers to the points that you're making, so you don't have to wait. I think that's it. Thank you for bringing that up. And now we go to planning applications that have been delegated. Yeah, planning applications that have been delegated. And that is 0103 in Abbey South. It's a delegated approval. It's the last one on your agenda. So we go to the first application, which should be on the Civitas.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. At the top, Civitas.
Indeed.
Yeah, this application is for building to provide a garage and car valet facility for a use which has already been approved on this site now permanently. It's mainly before you tonight because of the parish council objection. Proposed replacement building is still planned, but there's now been an amended plan to clad it in wood and put a steel sheet roof on, but we need the colour of the roof. So on that basis we're actually proposing not only that we approve it as set out in the report, but also that we have an extra condition on to make sure we get details of the actual colour of the roof material submitted before we agree to them. And also, when you say the photographs, we noticed there's some water which seems to be running out from under the gate onto the public highway. So we also thought we'd better have some sort of condition on dealing with surface water drainage being intercepted before it runs out onto the public highway, which is a normal requirement for such things. And the other point to make is we have had a light representation which you haven't actually got because the driving to like to go released. But all it is the parish council reiterating that they still maintain their objection. So that's all I want to say for now. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Keith. We have one speaker, Mr. Gilbert, who's the applicant. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What it was, the building is purely to provide a space indoors for our employees to clean cars. It's nothing more than that. It's just better working conditions for the employees. The objection by the parish council said it didn't conform to the village design statement, which it clearly does. It's got low visual impact, as you can see, with the 2 metre high fence all around the property. There's 2 big lime trees owned by the council, and there's an evergreen hedge growing up. Therefore, giving it a low visual impact. The quality and design of the building is by a reputable firm, so again, that conforms to the village design statement as well. That's about it, really. As far as the water, that was accidental that day, that obviously council was out there. It's not a normal thing. There is a safe way within the premises. The colour of the roof, I'd be willing to listen to your ideas on specific colours you prefer.
Thank you, sir. Right, there is no local member here tonight. Both have given their apologies. So, members, your comments. Doesn't seem to be a lot of comments. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. I've read this report fully, and to be quite honest, I say to a colleague tonight, I don't know why we're discussing this. It's a very straightforward application. The site is planning permission for the relevant use. If the building is cladded, it'll look no more. It'll look just like either a timber garage, one of these modern timber garages which blend in, or a couple of loose boxes, or 2 or 3 loose boxes. It's perfectly acceptable in that fringe location. The site's adequate for the dozen cars that are going to be there at any rate. So I'd be quite willing to propose that we go with officer's advice on this.
Thank you. Do you have a second, Dale?
I'll second that.
Thank you. You wish to speak, Councillor Robertson?
Only just to comment on, there looks to be a hose pipe there, which is the cause of the water draining onto the road. I don't know whether that's the case or not.
No. Well, I'm sure that'll be sorted out between the officers and the applicant. Anyway, we have a proposal that the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
Unanimous.
Unanimous, unanimous. The application is approved. Thank you, sir. Next application is 0917 in Barrington.
That's the site. Yes, this is a site on the edge of Northampton. Obviously, if you have a look at the report, it's previously had on plan permission granted on appeal for residential development. Sits opposite the Button Fields allocation, so it's in that area for those who are aware exactly where it is. So it had previously had on planning permission granted on appeal, which involved a planning obligation, which was a unilateral undertaking. Also, as you'll see, there's been a previous reserve matters approval, but that was for 32 units, whereas this is now 41 units, which has gone back to what was shown on the indicative plan that was submitted in the first place. Really, the best thing for me to do is just read bits from the summary, to be honest, because I think it says it all really. But the main issue here is, in terms of bringing it to committee, I suppose, is the fact that there's some discrepancy with our policy on the housing mix on the site. Planning policy is saying there should be some houses for sale, and it's 100% for this time affordable housing, but some of those are actually going to be for sale ultimately. So on balance, we've decided to recommend that the application be supported and approved. But just just as I decided to reiterate a few points there. The applicant is an established registered housing provider and says that the tenure mix is required to address the housing need in the locality, and that they've had intelligence and liaison with stakeholders that confirms it is a mixed sustainable scheme. The case is also made by the applicants that there is evidence of an undersupply in regards to affordable housing in the locality, which includes Northampton Borough, as the site is deemed to come within the Northampton development area, the NDA as we call it, and that there is support from Northampton Borough Council, who will have the nomination rights on the scheme, and they've confirmed their support for proposed tenure mix. Additionally, it is also noted that the scheme will be supported by Homes England. The proposed development reflects the existing and on mission current planning policies and development principles. The proposal to present the development offering no outright market housing initially, although right to buy can staircase through, is contrary to our clustering policies in DVC. But the applicant has stated that the additional provision here will make up for the loss of affordable housing from nearby schemes where less than 35% has been provided due to the application of viability assessments, thus reducing the quantum of affordable housing provided. And they've quoted Button Fields and Daventry Grange, which are nearby on the same Northampton fringe. As it says there, it requires a complex and nuanced technical assessment, but given the site history and the wider picture around housing, and in particular affordable housing, and the delivery required in the NRDA, it is considered that the scheme can, with the overall planning balance, be supported. There's no other technical issues that have been identified that we have an issue, problem with. The only point I do want to mention as well, actually, Chairman, is that we've made a mistake in referring to the wrong drawing for the landscape. It should actually be revision C for the landscaping plan. And the other point I just wanted to draw to members' attention, in the notes at the end, it does say that obviously if this is approved, we'll need to revisit the terms of the planning obligation to deal with the change in the percentage of affordable housing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Keith. Now we have a speaker, Mr. Duan, who's the agent.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am Chris Duan, Director of DLP Planning Limited, speaking on behalf of Futures Housing Group. Futures are delighted to have the opportunity to develop the application site at Land off Welford Road. Delivery of the site in question is somewhat challenging due to the variety of constraints, including site shape, topography, etc. However, with the benefit of precedent to the previous reserve matters approval, we've looked to build upon the opportunities available to offer the example scheme we have before you tonight. As a registered social landlord, my client has a service agreement with the council to assist the delivery of much needed affordable housing provision across the district. As such, they are endeavouring to achieve a shared goal with the council through the delivery of this site. To attain this, Futures are following a flexible approach to tenure options they are proposing in order to ensure people are given the best opportunity possible to make their first step on the property ladder within their local area. Whilst we are appreciative of the officer's recommendation of approval in this instance, we are disappointed by the stance of the council's policy team as they continue to take the context of policy HO5 of the Daventry Housing SPD. As detailed in our recent position statement, which the officer has kindly quoted from within their report, we have directly addressed the required tenure split as defined by the Section 106 for the approval by including 10 affordable homes for affordable rents. From a clustering perspective, however, the 41 dwelling application scheme proposed will include 14 plots overall, a policy compliant 35%, which will remain as affordable, managed by the RSL and with tenants nominated by the local authority. The remaining 26 intermediate affordable homes will be offered for private sale, but the method of sale will vary to allow prospective owners to grow into ownership. As you all know, the proposed layout has been broken down to ensure that the relevant affordable rental products have been appropriately separated from a clustering perspective by the potential ownership products to ensure that the scheme can be viewed as mixed, avoiding potential solar polarisation, and as such effectively adhering to policy HO5. Personally, the relevant mix of property tenures proposed are consistent with that which received such a positive response from members back at the Planning Committee meeting on the 12th of December 2018 in relation to my client's scheme for Parcel 8 of Middlemore, which followed the same approach. The proposed development has been designed with future security of residents in mind, so there are clear and safe access routes to all houses, robust boundary units, and a clear definition between public and private spaces, all adequately overlooked. All houses will be designed and built to comply with Part 2 of the building regulations in relation to security, and as such we are confident that these design features will make for a safe and secure environment in which to live. Given the considered approach we have followed overall, we would welcome backing of officers, your support in backing the officer recommendation in this instance to approve the application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. No local member here for Bowden. So, members. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chair. One question and a comment. My question, it may seem a small point, but I'm looking at page 35, about halfway down, that the redesign of this scheme has resulted in the loss of a small play area. The officer's report suggests that there are things that are nearby that would make this satisfactory. But I'm rather concerned that in a move towards a scheme that has got more affordable houses, that if it gives the message that you happen to live in an affordable home, you don't have the same need for a play area that is nearby. I would welcome a little bit more information on that. Broadly, I'm totally behind it. Where I have a slight concern is that it is reported at various points here that the fact that you are well above the requirements for affordable homes to this site is in part compensation for other sites where it is well below. I would have thought what happens in other sites is totally irrelevant. If we go down the road of allowing there to be any discussion about compensation, we're surely going to result with having some housing estates that are entirely affordable and others that are 100% owner-occupied at market rates. That strikes me as being wrong, and I would appreciate just a response from the officers, because I would have thought that if that is not a relevant factor, it shouldn't appear in this report, or indeed in any others. But nevertheless, broadly, I am in favour of the proposal.
Are you proposing or not?
I would propose if I had a response on the
I'll get the response first, and then you can have the options to say.
Thank you, Chairman. It's in the report, so the officers deem that it is a relevant factor that there's more affordable here. In an ideal world, we'll just have clustering on bigger developments, but the point here is that the nearby developments, for viability reasons, have got less than the desired level of affordable properties. So, as well as, you could try and make the case for this site on its merits, but its context is relevant, and other nearby sites have got less than the policy level of affordable housing, so it is appropriate to take that into account when making the recommendation that this small site can be 100% affordable. I think Keith can come back on the point about the play area.
Yeah, just to say, Chairman, the play area, obviously you'll see the photographs, it's in a very rural location. That's a Plymouth footpath actually, which is the line of the old railway. On the other side of that is fields. And I think our view is there are areas nearby, presumably that will be suddenly come across the road on Buxton Field area as well, which are easily accessible. So on that basis we felt that was an acceptable trade-off, that the informal open space was provided around the margins of the site and the Brampton Valley Way, which is part of this footpath and across the other side of the road.
Councillor Ritchie, back to you.
Thank you for that. It seems a great shame that the whole area could be a marvellous play area, but I do accept the situation. I'm happy to propose that we accept officers' advice on this, but I would also at a later stage appreciate from the officers a reference to where I would find amongst our policies anything that allows a sort of trading in affordable homes between applications, because that strikes me as totally wrong, and I would like to see just generally where that comes into our policies. But in this, that is something that can wait for another occasion.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor James, just first.
Yes.
Do you wish to say something?
Yeah, other than to say I'm quite happy with this scheme, and it is consistent with the way I voted on the Middlemore scheme too. The shortage is in affordable housing, I believe, and this does meet that. And personally speaking, I'm not in favour of clustering anyway, even if that is contrary to our policy, because I know it produces great social problems for homeowners. So, but that's a personal view. But you know, it's a good site, good location, and it's ideal really for the people for which it is intended. And I'm quite happy to second it.
Thank you,
Can I
Councillor.
just ask a question? About 6 months ago, we were led to believe by the a group of people from Daventry. There are problems with infrastructure, and they put some photographs showing gridlock roads and all the rest of it. Is that, excuse me, I'm just looking for an update really. I mean, the fact that this is so keenly approved suggests that these things have been dealt with in some form.
I mean, this is in the vicinity of the site for the rest of Buxton Fields, but this is already got outline approval at appeal. It wasn't an identified site on the local plan, but it's the opposite side of the road and was agreed on appeal. That's when the outline was agreed. There's already a reserved matters that's been agreed as well, and this is a second reserved matters. So if there are issues around highways, we can't take those into account because effectively, we've already got, as far as planning is concerned, this development is already there. So, taking any refactoring on that into account is neither here nor there because this could already have been built.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's page 23 actually, that we've got a note on crime, designing the climate essentially. It seems to create a number of concerns with the basic orientation of the property. And it mentions a hedge that is not particularly helpful to the process. And I noticed that the councillor James mentioned Middlemore. Well, that was one case where we deferred it because of the crime aspect of it. I don't know whether other members have picked this one up, but it would strike me again in this case that we perhaps ought to be looking for a deferral with some revised plans to improve on that aspect.
Keith, comment?
My understanding is now that the crime design officer is happy with the proposal following amendment.
So what's been amended to it that wasn't evident in this?
Yeah, that's her comment, basically on the revised scheme. On the revised scheme. It says it doesn't fundamentally change the view, her comment still stands, but basically she makes a couple of points, but I think she accepts that this is as good as we can get really, given all the constraints on the site. I mean, you heard the speaker refer to the constraints that are on the site. There are quite a lot of constraints that have entered in the layout that has been done this way to make it work. So effectively, we think this is the best we can get given all those constraints, which is why we've recommended it for approval.
Okay. We have a proposal now that the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3.
Unanimous. Unanimous. The application is approved. The next one is Abbey North, and it's application number 1081.
Thanks, Chairman. Drayton Park is a well-established residential estate built out under a development brief. The Drayton Park development Daventry across the 90s. As each property was developed under its own planning application, permitted development rights were removed. The estate is fully occupied, fully developed, and there have been subsequent extensions, alterations to a number of dwellings across the estate. This application is the latest one to be submitted for further extensions. As you'll see from the report, we've assessed the proposal in terms of its impact on adjoining neighbouring properties. Although we can accept that there is a large extension, it does come close to the boundary of adjoining properties. We judge the proposal to be acceptable on its planning merits, and accordingly recommend the application be approved, Chairman.
Thank you. Lots of questions. We certainly have some speakers on this one. Mr. Tesco, who was against the application. Mr. Tresco, sorry, who was against the application. First one to speak. You have 3 minutes.
There was a substantial representation of Drayton Park residents present to support the residential plots development brief and wish to object to this application. This is a very special executive estate, as you can see from the aerial photograph, picture 1, which we do not want spoiled by overdevelopment. The application is a huge 86% increase in size, only a second house on the rear, circa 30 metres front to back. All have made individual detailed objections based upon matters like overshadowing, loss of privacy, access, and other applicable planning principles, but particularly with reference to the DDC embedded policy GN2 and EN42. To the Drayton Park development brief. Clearly it may be difficult to identify the distinctiveness of a locality and its amenities, or to define the character of its nature. This is not the case here, as DDC created a brief development which is enforced from the start with an iron fist. Even recently has meant applications have been amended, withdrawn, or in part refused. The officer's report contradicts itself on the matter by saying on page 50 that it must be used by developers and residents as the basis for applications, and then on page 54 states it's of little significance because urban design principles have developed. The officer admits this application does not comply. The residents wish it to be retained. This precedent would ruin Drayton Park. Clause 1.3 specifies that to each side there will be generous landscaping. Breached. 4.11, there will be a landscape framework to create a low-density, high-quality environment. This hopes to share boundaries and ground development right across the plot. Fact. 4.2.2 specifies any building shall be inset 5 metres from shared boundaries, breached on both sides. 4.1.2 specifies there should be an appropriate degree of coordination and consistency. Breached. This is not an exhaustive list. Because there are mistakes in the application not picked up by the officer. The plans admit a second floor sitting room, bedroom and ensuite. The swimming pool has no plan to treat the air and water. Will this go on the walls close to the neighbours, creating noise and pollution? There are others. The officer has made certain wrong assertions. No significance is given to the landscape officer's concerns, and the errors and misrepresentation within the tree report are not noted. On page 52 it is reported there are no side elevation windows that face the site. What about this elevated glazed garden room? The assumption of a chest-high hip roof provides privacy to neighbours is ridiculous. Again, these are only illustrations of many errors. The impact of this development is devastating. Look at the impact it has on my family, picture 3. Surely no one can accept this is in keeping with this locality. To accept this below standard project could set a precedent. Approving this application, which does not meet the standards required by GN2 and EN42, will see the erosion and lead to the inevitable decline in Drayton Park. Picture 3 didn't come up.
I did show all the pictures.
You did show one, I did show the illustration.
Right.
Do you want to show the illustration at all?
First picture. Good setup. Move it down, roll down, there you go.
Right, next speaker is Mrs. Tweedsdale from Town Council.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Tweedale, Daventry Town Council. I'll refer to the comments that we've already submitted to the planning officer. So, comments that we submitted on the 3rd of January. The Town Council has reviewed the application and submits an objection as the proposal goes against the principles set out within the Drayton Park Development Brief, which defines the character of Drayton Park. It conflicts with Safe Policy GN2 of the Daventry District Local Plan, which states that the type, scale and design should be in keeping with the locality. And also Safe Policy EN42 of the Local Plan, which states that the development should promote and reinforce local distinctiveness. Daventry Town Council would like to highlight additional areas of concern with the proposal, which are overlooking, loss of privacy, loss of light, overshadowing and loss of strategic views of Daventry Reservoir. We submitted further comments on the 28th of March. The Town Council has reviewed the amended application and submits an objection. Daventry Town Council has been notified of discrepancies with the information contained within the tree protection plan, which needs investigation before the application is considered. Daventry Town Council would like to reiterate its original objection that the proposal goes against the principles set out within the Drayton Park Development Brief, which defines the character of Drayton Park and conflicts, as we said previously, the policies that I've already mentioned. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Third speaker is Mr. Wayne as the agent.
Councillors, my name is Barry Wayne, I'm a Chartered Town Planner. I act for Mr. and Mrs. Joseph, the owners and applicants. The application is for single-storey side and rear extensions and a two-storey extension set out fully and fairly in your officer's report. However, I would like to refer to the concerns expressed by some consultees. My class property, like those around it, is contained within a large curtilage and various neighbouring dwellings that have been permitted and extended in size and siting within each plot. There is no uniformity in size of dwellings to plot size, and compared with its immediate neighbours, the existing dwelling has a smaller footprint. The Drayton Park Development Brief refers to a building plot ratio of 40%, that is 40% building to 60% garden. My class dwelling, with its extension, would be 15%, giving 85% garden. As such, it is substantially below the recommended ratio and cannot reasonably be called overdevelopment. The result will still be of a dwelling set in a large open garden area, in line with the overall character and appearance of other dwellings in the area. Proposed follows the design of the existing dwelling by the use of chimneys, brick arching and varying roof levels. It is considered to comply with your design policies EN42 and GN2 of the government advice. The question of overlooking and loss of privacy has been raised. There are no side-facing first floor windows facing number 25, and those facing number 21 are all obscure bathroom windows in company condition. The extensions comply with this council's SPD on house extensions by not affecting the light enjoyed by existing premises. The officer's report concluded the proposal can sit comfortably on the site and will not adversely affect neighbouring properties. The landscape officer's report, as reported in the agenda, predates the tree survey, and your officers now accept that only 2 hedges of the low category are to be removed, that the extension will not be detrimental to the remaining trees or their condition or amenity value. Curtilage planting will remain, which complements the setting of the dwelling and the area. There is no reason to believe the extension will create highway safety problems. Chairman, both your officer's report and my comments to you tonight show that my plans have fully taken into account the concerns raised and have addressed them in the amended application. I therefore respectfully ask you to follow the advice of your officers and approve the application subject to the recommended conditions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. There are 2 local members here for Abbey North. Councillor James, you can go first, followed by Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been aware of this application and the original one for some considerable time. And I must say, it does cause me a little bit of concerns. The problem for me is to be able to produce a planning grant sufficient to deliver a knockout blow to it. But that doesn't mean to say that I'm going to vote for it by any means. I am concerned about the massing here, and I am concerned that the development brief, although it was made in 1989, is gradually being eroded. Now, over a long, long period of time, I've seen developments in Wellingborough, developments in Barton Seagrave and Kettering, which were designed to be something distinctive and unique in their day, to provide this higher quality housing. And this is unique in the context of Daventry. It really is, and it's a pleasure to walk around there in delivering leaflets, I can tell you. It really is nice and pleasant around there. It's a lovely setting. And I would hate to see what's happened to developments elsewhere over many years gradually erode from the original principles of being spacious and set within grounds. And I think this, I know there have been extensions up there because I've actually agreed to extensions in the past. But that's no reason to go over the top. I think it'll probably be the thin end of the wedge, and that we'll see this greater massing. So gradually it will lose its uniqueness and its distinctive nature, and the ambience will change. So from my point of view, I have to say to you that I would rather this development didn't happen, and I should vote against it.
Thank you. Councillor Ritchie.
I was hoping to hear that Councillor James might have been a little bit more assertive one way or the other in this application. I don't agree with him in that it is a nice place to walk around delivering leaflets. It's miles from one letterbox to another. But other than that, and I'm sympathetic to most of the points that he has made. And having read the papers and knowing at least the area, I had tended to go along with the view that this was overdevelopment. The agent has given these figures on the ratio of built area to garden area, which rather suggests that, okay, it doesn't on those grounds qualify. But when you look at the sheet there of the actual plot, the ratio of built to garden might be relevant if they were building the swimming pool at the bottom of the garden or somewhere different. But when it is all up alongside that little row, nothing in Drayton Park you can call little, that row of homes, it just strikes me as out of place that somehow detracts from the nature of the area. Surely the advantages of living in Drayton Park are not just that some of the houses look quite good. It is just the general ambience that is created by the gardens, by the trees, by the proximity to the reservoir, and all these sorts of things. I don't usually spend time trying to argue the case of those who have got the means for living in such houses. But look, it is there. It's a quality that area has, and I would just be on the side of arguing that, look, I don't think that this actually is good for Drayton Park. But at the moment, I can't quite put my finger on what would be the policy reason for refusing.
Okay. Well, if you come up with a reason, I'm sure you'll stick your hand up. Councillor Wesley.
Thank you, Chair. It's a really, really difficult one, isn't it? I can see both sides of this, absolutely both sides. I think if it was adjacent to my house, I think I'd be saying, and I bought that house, I think I'd be worried about it. Unfortunately, though, what I haven't heard is anything really that says why it shouldn't happen. Apart from, I don't know, it's just not. I mean, just for instance, is it in keeping? I mean, there's so many different houses up there, slightly different build styles. I mean, that's the whole idea of the estate. I don't think this development actually changes that view. As far as the aesthetic of it, it is actually quite difficult to really see from anywhere else how that changes the ambience. Now, obviously, it does change the ambience for the neighbours. I'm not denying that, but from the outside, I mean, I think you'd have to walk down the drive to actually see the effect of it. I'm just finding it really, really difficult to find a reason to say no to this, although I do sympathise with the neighbours, and that's all I've got to say on this.
Thank you. Any other members? Vice Chairman.
Yeah, I couldn't support this in actual fact, because I think it does have an impact on the neighbourhood amenity, which is overbearing and massing. And I do believe it's against GN2A and EN42C, so I couldn't support officers' advice on this particular one.
Is that a proposal or not?
It is a proposal, Chair.
Right, do you have a seconder? Councillor Ritchie, do you wish to say something else on that?
Nothing to add to what it said.
Okay.
Chairman, can I come back?
You can come back.
Specifically, what is your concern in terms of overmassing? Overbearing, what is the impact?
I think it's against GN2A and EN42C. I think there's impact on the neighbourhood because the sites are coming very close together.
On the neighbour?
On the neighbour.
Not the neighbourhood?
The neighbour, sorry, the neighbour. So that's why I'm against that.
Sorry, again, through you, Chairman. There's two issues here. One is the impact on the character of the area, Drayton Park as a whole. And what members must consider is, does this development impact on that overall character? And then there's the second impact, which by and large all extensions have, is the impact on the communities of neighbouring properties. So you seem to be saying it's the impact on the immediate neighbours, and there are only two neighbours. So is it both neighbours as a result of extensions, or either or? I mean, just trying to tease out what it is about.
I think it's the one, I've got to be careful and get the left and right, the one on the left-hand side. On that one there, I think it's
21.
Yeah, I think it's the impact there on that neighbouring property.
So that's the bottom right-hand elevations. So
Yes, it's where it's coming out. Yes.
Because on the other side, it is in effect single-story extensions. There are no upper floor windows, and whilst I've had concerns about overlooking, and in my view, there's no overlooking as a result of the intervening ridge roof of the single story. So again, help me, as it were.
Try.
So it's the bottom right-hand elevation, and it's the massing of that, and its impact on that immediate neighbour.
Yes, that's right.
That's fine.
Okay. Right, Councillor Ritchie, you put your hand up again. Not Councillor Ritchie, sorry, Councillor Bensley.
Yeah, I think that's been explained now. I was wanting to understand the difference in view between officers and members on planning policy.
Right, does anybody else wish to? You're first.
Okay, just a question. Down, but the points that were made, the technical points that were made by Mr. Trescott about there being mistakes, and quite a lot of detail went into that. I just wonder how that came across, and whether you accept those points. Were some, if any, mistakes made? I mean, mistakes do happen, don't they?
Well, yeah, there may well be mistakes. Officers, people will make mistakes.
Sure.
I mean, I don't accept there are mistakes. It may be a case of interpreting what the impact of the development is on the neighbouring properties. The development brief was a brief that was brought in prior to the development of Drayton Park, so to help guide individual applications that came along after it. I would say there's a question mark over what weight you now give to it as a planning document, looking at subsequent planning applications, because my understanding is that because each dwelling has got a lot, we removed the development rights, What that means is that it allows the planning authority to look at each application on its individual merits. And as I said in the introduction, the development was guided by the brief, but then development rights were removed. Drawings have been subsequently extended and altered, and those have been judged on individual merits. Some have been refused, some have been allowed. This particular site has had a previous application which was withdrawn or refused, and this is a revised scheme attempting to address those concerns. We consider that the applicant has done sufficient to address those concerns, both in terms of its impact on the Drayton Park, but also in terms of its impact on the amenity of neighbouring properties. And clearly, some members disagree with some elements of that extension, and in particular the impact on the amenity of a particular neighbour.
So, Chairman, what I'm hearing from this is correctly, you're not necessarily disagreeing with what Mr. Truscott says, you just say that it's not overly relevant.
Well, Mr. Truscott, the resident has spoken, he's given his views, members have listened to those views, you're entitled to agree or not. The officer's report is there before you, black and white, so you can read it and decide you agree with that.
Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you, Chair, for letting me come back again. I think I'd like to point out that it's both the impact on the neighbour, and also, and particularly, the character of the neighbourhood itself. Now, just because that development brief was done in 1989, it doesn't mean we have to accept the organic process of things gradually changing over time. If that were the case, we wouldn't be bothered about buildings that were built in 1700 and doing everything we can to protect them, because we'd say, well, that's 300 years old. Things have changed since then, let's knock that wall down, knock this wall down. This is a very distinctive and unique development, unique in the context of Daventry, and it deserves, it really does deserve the ambience of that estate to be preserved. And I'm sure that putting extensions like this that have this sort of critical mass will mean that gradually, over time, things will change and it will deteriorate and will affect the estate. So,
thanks, Chairman.
it is important.
Again, through you, Chairman, each application, the members will have heard this before, each application is on individual merits. We have not ignored the development brief, we have considered it as a material consideration. The judgment that you need to make is what you attach to that. It is not an absolute prescriptive document. You must look at each application on its individual merits, have a regard to its impact on Drayton Park as a local area, a distinctive local area, and that's what your policies allow you to consider. But also the impact of the amenity of neighbouring properties. If you judge it to be having an adverse impact on the character of the area, then you must say why. Why is it doing that? I believe that the proposition is that it's solely the impact on the amenity of a particular neighbouring property, and that is what you as members will agree or not agree to. But as officers, we're satisfied we've had regard to the development brief, we've had regard to policies, we've had regard to the representations received with the town council, layers, etc. But we've made a planning judgment, and on the planning balance, we have said the proposal is acceptable on its planning grounds. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no more comments, which there doesn't appear to be, we have a proposal the application be refused for the given reason, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Those against.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The application is refused for the given reason. That's the effect on the one particular neighbour and the two followers. Next application is in Welford and it's 0030.
Thanks, Chairman. The the drawings, this site forms part of or a complex of agricultural buildings, both existing and former agricultural buildings. You'll see in the planning strip to have a series of permissions that are allowed for various business uses on site. This application relates to one of those buildings, just to the northern end of the complex, and is a retrospective application seeking permission for its use. Basically, as an aircraft repair workshop with an extension to provide a spray booth in connection with that particular use. It also includes an area of land around the site for the storage of trailers, etc., that are required to bring gliders to the site for repair. You'll see from the late representations that a number of concerns have been raised about an airstrip that is on the adjoining land and about other irregularities that exist on the site, alleged breaches of planning control. Those are matters that are being dealt with and are being investigated by enforcement officers and planning officers, and if necessary, may or may not result in the invitation of further applications which may or may not come before committee. What we are satisfied is that the application before you tonight is capable of being determined this evening on its planning merits. What we say is that in terms of the impact on the visual beauty of the area, the proposal is acceptable. In terms of impact on highway safety, the proposal is acceptable. And in terms of the impact on the immunity of adjoining or nearby residential properties, the proposal is acceptable. And accordingly, we're recommending the application be approved, Chair.
Thank you. We have three speakers. First of all, Mr. Wayne, who's against the application.
For to against, Chairman. Chairman, I fully appreciate what this application is seeking consent for, but can we put it in context? That is the repair and maintenance of light aircraft by a company that operates previously at Husbands Bogler, an ex-World War II site with an excellent runway facilities. The central part of the move was no doubt the availability of a runway. This was achieved by the landowner applying for the removal of a substantial hedgerow and filling in a ditch for agricultural reasons to improve the efficiency of arable farming. Following the removal of the hedgerow, the grass landing strip was laid out and appears to be a permanent feature. Following that, the ex-grain store was occupied for a use which did not have permission for B2 general industry, but then extended without permission. The earlier retrospective permission, in 2004, for the use of the building had conditions which restricted outside storage, display of materials and plant and equipment in the interest of visual amenity. Then a large car park and trailer park was laid out without permission. The early use of the grass landing strip has led to the investigation by the CAA into dangerous manoeuvring likely to affect occupiers of adjacent buildings, including a preschool nursery. The use itself involves spraying and the storage of chemicals and other potential oils, including aviation fuel that arriving aircraft have in their tanks. Those are the direct implications of this use in this location, and you can see how the landowner and operator have treated this council and the local community through misinformation and retrospective applications. Our environmental health officer says there is no difference with similar sector elsewhere in the country. Chairman, you have no evidence before you to justify that statement. The criteria for B2 uses is would it be acceptable close to dwellings in a preschool? My clients have considerable concerns of that. Your officers make great play of local employment. It's only moved 3.5 miles. That's not local employment. The Highway Authority has been misinformed. The proposal is a B2 use and not a B1 or B8 use as previously approved. And they're right to urge caution on highway safety, especially as the use involves large trailers and the need for additional parking areas. 25 letters of support wish to dispel unfounded claims of dangerous flying. Not unfounded, as the CAA are undertaking a full investigation. Supporters don't suggest air accidents don't happen, nor can they. My client considers that the committee are being asked to agree an extension which has direct consequences on safety to local residents and occupiers of adjoining buildings without any detailed evidence to support that view, or the view that the relationship of aircraft and preschool is acceptable. And clearly this relies on substantiality of a permanent grass strip runway. Chairman, the way that has been arrived at gives my clients no assurance that any proposed conditions will be met. The principle of the use of the land and building is being seriously questioned by my clients, consider the application should be deferred for a more detailed assessment of the use of the land and buildings. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Rank. Mr. Brotherton, the Parish Council.
Thank you, Chair. Work with Parish Council. The Parish Council feels that the planning situation in the report is incorrect. The case officer on 4 occasions and the applicant state the airstrip is operating under permitted development. The formation of the strip involved operational development, as Mr. Wayne just said. The removal of a section of protected hedge and its associated ditch to provide length to runway. I did send photos in to display that. I was told they would be available for you to see. I may have to wait for them to come up later.
I'll add a few seconds on while you're waiting, don't worry.
There we go. Thank you. This hedge was subject to a removal application which the council did not support, and you prepared a hedgerow notice. The applicant withdrew the removal application on the 12th of January, so the retention notice was not served. Subsequently, a section of the hedge was removed without further application. As permitted development rights in the GPDO only allow land to change use, they do not apply in this instance, and the airstrip and the taxiway is operating without planning permission or PD rights. I forwarded the planning inspectorate decision to your officers a couple of days back, as I felt it was fair to spring on them tonight. Further evidence is set out in the planning encyclopedia, paragraph 3B2085, which sets out a Court of Appeal judgment. That judgment also states the second reason the strip does not benefit from PD rights is it does not revert to agriculture between flights. This is the case here. The grass cover has to be short enough not to foul landing wheels and can't be grazed with arable crops. Either side will be damaged. There is a photo actually showing the strip running between through the arable fields. No restrictions. You can see the problem with animals wandering off and damaging the arable crops. Parish Council is also concerned that Welford neighbourhood plan policies have been cherry-picked to support the recommendation for approval. Policies W2, W5 and W9 are listed as pertinent in the report. W9 is singled out as supporting the development, even though it is subject to the proposals being of appropriate scale and acceptable in terms of rural character. W2 is not mentioned, although it deals with development outside the village and defines appropriate countryside development. W5 concerning and enhancing the local landscape character and biodiversity. It is the pertinent policy to this application, has been totally ignored. It's not mentioned in the report. Particularly important given all the work done on the green infrastructure in the neighbourhood plan. Don't have time to go into the points, but you will be aware that the CPRE has covered them all in their objection of the 2nd of this month, which I hope you've all had a chance to see. So we have a situation where a building has been occupied without consent, land converted to outside storage and a taxiway installed without consent, an historic hedge removed without consent, despite the landowner being fully aware the council would not authorise it, to allow construction of an unauthorised runway, and finally a further section of hedge removed along the Jurassic Way. Surely all these matters are related, and the application before you cannot be considered until all these factors, including enforcement action, which you understand has been investigated, have been clarified. Finally, should you not refuse or defer the application, the suggested conditions are very light. Please consider hours, engine noise on a summer evening carries a long way, and landscaping. Hedges around the external storage are a must. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Killen is the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Killen. I'm Managing Director of the ES Aviation and the applicant. I established the company in 1990 as East of England Sailplanes, where we moved 10 years ago to Husbands Bosworth Airfield. It became after a few years apparent at Husbands Bosworth that we needed more space. So this is why we ended up moving to the Hempo to get into a building that was much bigger. We employ 9 people, and from the local area, Welford and Husbands Bosworth, and this is why I want to keep the business going in this way. Back in the spring of 2018, my wife applied for planning permission. This was before we got into the building. We were told at the time that we did not need to apply for planning permission as it wasn't necessary. This was incorrect. In June of 2018, this incorrect advice was given. In late autumn 2018, it was identified by the current planning officer dealing with the application that permission of change of use of buildings was in fact required. An application was duly submitted in early December. Why the spray booth? A spray booth is a 6-year-old, very modern spray booth with filtration system for the composite repairs that we do and painting, small amounts of paint that we do. This is very much a required item. I think that's all I'd like to say. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Well, I'm sure if we've got any technical ones, we'll ask you. Again, no local member here. So who wants to start? Members? Yes, Councillor Ritchie.
Well, questions. Am I right in understanding that even if we said no and this business ceased to exist, there would still be an airstrip and there would be still people who would fly from it?
I can't predict the future. I don't know. What I can say, if you say no, the applicant will have a right to appeal, and those matters will be put before the inspector. Similarly, if you say no and seek to take enforcement action to stop the activities on site, the applicant will have a right of appeal, and those matters will be put before an inspector. With regard to the airstrip, yes, you can use land without the need for planning permission for any use for a period of up to 28 days. The applicant insists that they are exercising those rights. Parish Council and the neighbour are challenging that, and we are looking into that matter. If that results in the need for planning permission and an application is invited, then that matter will be brought before you. But what we're saying here is that this application is a retrospective application for the repair of aircraft, both gliders and aircraft that are flown into the site, and the use of that building we're asking you to determine tonight, together with the outside storage area. So what happens in the future should we say no? Because I don't know, other than there are rights of appeal should the council decide to refuse the application. Similarly, if members feel that they don't have sufficient information or clear information, you may decide, well, we don't want to make a decision tonight, so we've got other information, of course. In this case, we'll go away and we'll come back with a more informed report so that you are fully aware of the facts.
I'm not sure that I'm totally clear on this. The summary on page 57 says it's important to note this application does not include the airstrip.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't include the airstrip.
No, it doesn't.
So that it would be perfectly possible for the airstrip to continue to operate.
As I've explained.
And while we cannot tell the future, there is no strong reason to believe that if we said no to this application, that the airstrip would cease to exist. And therefore, surely a lot of what we have heard and what is written here about the dangers of low-flying aircraft, the storage of the aerofuel, and all that sort of stuff, surely that then doesn't have any relevance to the...
Only insofar as you'll see the environmental health officers have looked at the application for the change of the use of the building and associated storage. Said they are satisfied with the proposal.
Okay. Councillor Longley.
Yeah, really on the point that Councillor there says. So this application has nothing to do with the airstrip whatsoever, and it's strictly about a change of use.
Well, this application for a change of use of the building, right? The use of that building is the repair of aircraft and others. My understanding is that they drive the gliders in on the back of trailers, which you see in the photographs.
Yeah, well, my point being is that...
Airplanes, as I understand it, fly in and are repaired. The applicants provided a log which indicates that the number of flights in and out is less than 28 days. So they're saying we're operating that airstrip under the 28-day rule. Parish Council, and therefore we're not putting it in the red line in the application side. Okay? Parish Council are saying no. They've done certain works, they've done this, they've done that, and the airstrip requires planning permission. We're investigating that. That's not before you need to.
Yeah, but it's a separate issue, that's my point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wesley.
Thank you, Chair. My questions have already been covered. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any more comments, proposals? Somebody has to make one.
Yeah, I propose we accept change of use.
I'd second that.
Okay, so we've got, would you wish to speak on it, sir?
Only just briefly, this area, the whole area, rather have been long in use for this kind of purpose. In fact, I can remember it being used when I was 10 years old, my father driving around the perimeter track in order to get a civetop.
You were the one.
That's the wrong area. Point of order, Chairman, that's the wrong area. That's over the border in Leicestershire, from Clough Airfield.
It is just over
before miles.
Okay, so you've got a proposal and you have a seconder. Anybody else wish to speak? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask, this is not directly related to this application, but we have heard complaints that decisions taken by this committee or taken by the district council have been ignored in respect to hedges and so on. Can we have an assurance that that will be investigated? And I think it would give us a little bit more confidence if we said that if it could be investigated and we could be as a committee informed of the outcome.
Again, through you, Chairman, I am speaking to the officer who dealt with the hedgerow regulations applications to establish the facts before we progress further. And equally, I'm speaking to the officers who have investigated the enforcement concerns as well as the case officer and the alleged change of use of the airstrip. So we will look at it and we will come to it.
So, non-aviation planning applications. It's part of the course to take into account highway safety issues and concerns when looking at planning applications. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. So the bit, just a general point, the bit that I don't understand is if that's how it works for, like I said, non-aviation is, why is it that the same doesn't apply to aviation? As I understand it, there's a Civil Aviation Authority investigation going on at the moment with regards to at least one incident. Why, if there's are there no concerns, or if there are concerns, why wouldn't you, as a planning officer, assuage those concerns before coming to this conclusion, as you would if it was a motor issue?
Well, I think the officer in the report has set out the concerns with respect to the airstrip and the use of the airstrip. Aviation is regulated by the CAA. If there are complaints about dangerous flying, it's not the flying authority to check those out. The planning system allows for the temporary use of land. We have one party saying they are utilising that land under temporary community development rights. We have two other parties challenging that. The point is that strip of land is not part of this application that is before you. So you can either decide to turn the application on its merits, or as I've said before, you think there's something else you need.
Chairman, through you, just on that one, technically that's indisputably correct. They are completely separate. But isn't it also true that just as you can't really have an airport without a terminal, you can't really have this facility without the associated building? So whilst you're right, it's not really telling full stories.
Well, I agree, Chairman. If we had an application here before us tonight for an airstrip, we will have consulted the Civil Aviation Authority, we will have consulted the local police helicopter that operates out of Simcoe, Solway, and we would consult with relevant bodies in connection with that application. But there's no requirement to consult if somebody's exercising. We are investigating those concerns, and we will come to a view. If that view is, on reflection, we think planning permission is required, then we will have to then decide on the expediency of either inviting an application, taking enforcement, and it may well be that we have to seek the views of relevant experts on those. But at the moment, you have a party saying, yes, we do bring aircraft in here, but that is something to repair, and that is well below the 28-day rule.
Okay. Right, we have a proposal the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
9.
Those against? 1. So there must be some abstention.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The application is approved. The next application is in West Haddon, it's 6. Right, West Haddon.
Thanks, Chairman. This is a property of its age. It has been the subject of previous applications which were refused. And this is a further application to try and overcome previous reasons for refusal. In our view, the proposal addresses those concerns. Basically, it's a first floor extension over a flat roof garage. The neighbour to the side has a number of side-facing windows, which would be affected by the proposal. But our view is that those are secondary windows and would adversely impact the overall immunity of the property, such that the impact is satisfactory in planning terms, having regard to policies and having regard to the overall planning balance. Accordingly, we recommend the application be approved, Chairman.
Thank you. There are no speakers. With 2 local members. Do you wish to go first, sir?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm saying what David said earlier on. I'm not sure why this is really on here. I imagine it's because the parish council have put objection, but I see there's nobody here tonight. And there's no representations from neighbours. It seems to be quite a normal sort of extension, so I'm going to propose that we go with officer's advice.
Thank you. And I'm the second member, and I see nothing wrong with the application at all. I've been in those houses many times. So I will one and second it, Chairman. Anybody else wish to speak on it? Right, we have a proposal the application be approved, and it's been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Those against? Abstention? Okay. Thank you. The application is approved. The last but not least, as we say, is 0069 in Long Butley.
It's plain.
It's the fields of Daventry, it can't take it.
Thanks, Chairman. The application is an application for an extension to an existing outbuilding at the rear of the property. The outbuilding is a fairly unique it comprises a range of outbuildings that effectively form a small sort of terrace, which I believe were formerly workshops, machine work. Members will recall a previous application was refused by the planning committee for an extension which involved a pitch roof to create a self-contained unit. That application was refused but never appealed against. The current proposal is for a reduced extension. It's a flat roof extension to provide a storage area, increased storage area for the outbuilding. We've assessed the proposal in terms of its impact on the immunity of adjoining neighbours, street scene, etc., and judged the proposal to be acceptable on planning grounds, and accordingly recommending that the application be approved, Chairman. One more thing, sorry, Chairman, there is mention of a line trim that was on the flat roof which has been removed, so it is a straightforward flat roof extension. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. We have one speaker, Ms. Stokes.
Yeah. Okay, I live at number 5 Station Road, and I'm speaking on behalf of the other neighbours in the small terrace, some of which are here tonight, some can't be because of work and childcare issues. We object to this development as strongly as we objected to last year's development. Last year, the proposed development was rejected on the following grounds. This is a quote: due to the size of the extension in relation to the size of the plot and its close proximity to the garden area of number 9 Station Road. The proposed development would constitute undesirable backland development and an overdevelopment of the site, such that it would be detrimental to the enjoyment of the garden area of number 9 Station Road and the residential amenities of its occupiers. Unquote. Comparing the plans of this application and last year's application shows that it is for almost exactly the same development. Last year, it wasn't refused on the basis of the pitch of the roof or the height of the building. It was deemed too large for the size of the plot, and it is exactly the same size this year. It is still overdeveloping the communal garden and still having a disproportionately negative impact on the rest of the neighbours' enjoyment of the garden area. Once again, we have to stress the character of the property. Unlike most of the terraces in Rugby, we do not have private gardens. We, numbers 5, 7 and 9, do not enjoy privacy in our small gardens. All shrubs and low fences are for containment and ornament, as we are prohibited from erecting tall fences by covenants to our properties. The character of the property forces us to show consideration to each other to an extent larger than if we had private gardens. Mrs. Waldron, the applicant, whose property is unique in the terrace, is that she not only owns part of the communal garden, but also has a private enclosed garden. Moved to the property knowing exactly what the character of the property was. We don't know what evidence the committee would like to provide in support of our statement that this development will adversely impact our quality of enjoyment within our gardens. We're not being unreasonably opposed to Ms. Waldron's plans towards the property. In fact, Mrs. Waldron's house benefited from the most recent extension in the terrace. The house extension application in 2017 was approved without any objections from any of us. We recognise Ms. Waldron's plans as based on a genuine need and in line with the character of the property. However, we are unable to see the justification for this additional application. We feel that the process of applying for planning permission and of this committee deliberating on the matter is to ensure developments are not only for the benefit of the applicant, but to also safeguard the peace and visual environment of the neighbours. As neighbours, it is the impact on our amenity that is of concern, and we thank the committee for accepting this argument last year. Nothing material has changed since that time from our perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We did submit some pictures, but we need to see those as well.
We'll see if we can flash them up.
I've got any pictures.
You haven't got any
They were submitted, and there was also some objections sent, but somebody had gone on holiday, so they weren't included in the original. They were classed as late plans, even though they were on time.
Through you, Chairman, I'm aware of late representations because they were reported as neighbouring objector. Yes, they were received, but unfortunately the case officer was on leave, but they are set out on the late representation list. I'm not aware that I received photographs, but there are photographs for members to see.
We do have printouts if we're allowed to hand them out.
There are photographs through you, Chairman, that do show the site in connection with the proposals.
Okay. Thank you. Right, again, there are two local members, but the other local member wasn't here last time. I was the one that proposed refusal for the last one, and I remember it very well, and I argued the case along with some support from members. I hear what Ms. Spokes is saying, and I sympathise with a lot of the points she's making. The main reason was because the previous application was accommodation for somebody to live in as well, and that was one of the main reasons, although it was mass in size and everything, that was the main reason why the committee refused it. It is very difficult, and I can't see and think of any plain reason that the application could be refused on. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but I can't think of a plain reason to refuse the application. So over to you, other local member, Councillor Longley.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This has got a bit of a checkered history, as we all know, and my sympathy isn't entirely with the local residents. However, like yourself, I would like to hear the planning reasons, so I'm not going to make a comment significant at this stage, because I'd like to hear how the debate goes, if indeed there is one.
Thank you. Councillor Frost.
The photographs that didn't make their way to the council, it sounds like they're different photographs to the ones that are being shown here. If they're being offered, can we see them? Is that all right?
Through you, General, we normally arrange for speakers to have up to 3 photographs or printouts or maps.
It's one in 8 copies so that...
We don't normally...
Can we see what they are, please?
Have you submitted these?
Yes, the same.
They've already been submitted.
Yeah, they have been submitted.
No, besides this.
Oh, no, but these are ones that these are sent.
Well, if these
and it compares the last year to this
no,
year.
well, in fact, I'm sorry, because it doesn't make my case any better. If you haven't sent them already, you can't distribute them
I
tonight.
have sent them already. They were not here. I have sent them to the...
You have sent them?
Who were they sent to at the council?
Mr. Walker, not to the council. I was told to send them to the case officer.
Oh, right.
No, I was
The
told
council,
to
so
send
it's the
them
council.
to the case officer. On Friday, we found out accidentally, we did not have letters about the fact that this was at the committee. I was checking the minutes, so the agenda, and I found out. So I was told to send it to the case officer.
No, you did right. You've done right. If you sent them to the case officer and we haven't got them, you may hand these out. Normally we don't allow anybody to hand them out.
Yes.
But if you've done that and we haven't got them, hand them out. Yeah, well, I know the site like the back of my hand.
We can share one. I'll pass on. Oh yeah, why not? I'll bring the opposite. Should we share one and pass those on?
It's pretty Chairman, it's possible there might have been some sort of technical error, because if emails come through to anyone in development control relating to speakers,
It's right with Emma.
they always get forwarded on.
Anyway, we apologise for not having your pictures for whatever reason, but at least members can see the pictures tonight.
Similar to
Well, I think it's similar to, not on the set of lavender. The pictures are similar to what have been displayed.
There's a comparison. It's a comparison between the previous one and this one.
Right, your comments, gentlemen. No ladies, no gentlemen.
I think I know the answer to this question, but it has a slight look of planning permission by stealth, doesn't it? Because you're going to residential via storage, whatever. And I'm all right in saying the standard response is you have to judge it on what it is, and it's there's no residential in there. Even if you suspect that's happening, you can't tell it.
Exactly.
You're recommended to come to a different view. I mean, officers previously recommended for approval. Members disagree. Officers are recommending approval. Members are entitled to disagree with that. So, I mean, if you feel that the flat roof extension doesn't address your concerns previously, then you're entitled to take that view. But clearly the applicant does have a right of opinion. It's up to you, members. As regards to future use, there's a condition on that to deal with that issue. But again, none of us can see in the future what might happen with the future occupier of the property and how they use the building. As long as it's being used incidentally to the enjoyment of the development, then there isn't any change in use or alteration. The reason the previous application required permission was it was a self-contained unit. In effect, it was a unit, and that is why cause concern. Members refused on the grounds of unacceptable background development. Entirely over to you, members, in terms of judging it and deciding whether or not you think this addresses the concerns or the reasons for refusal previously given.
There is a condition that says it shouldn't be habited.
Sure, I just want another technical point. Am I also saying that these points about the covenants, because it seems like the neighbours have limited options available to them when it comes to protecting their way of life, because of the covenants.
Through you, Chairman, there's anything to do with covenants, things on deeds, are civil matters between
That's what
different
I
bodies,
thought. I just want to
not
clarification.
relevant to planning. That's separately, they're dealt with separately.
Covenants can be looked at separately, and indeed there was a case in Barby several years ago where they got planning permission for one thing, but couldn't implement it because the neighbours invoked the covenants. So planning can only deal with what's before in terms of use of the land, development of the land.
Okay. Councillor Weston.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we're seeing basically this is the same area as before. We're seeing that, but we did hear from you, Chair, saying that the issue last time wasn't about the same area. It was about it being a residential.
Yeah. That's what it was. Yes.
So can we just clarify? Can we just clarify the reason for refusal? Just.
The last time it was a pitch roof extending along.
Yeah, but the reason for refusal was it mass?
Can you remember? To look it up on the portal. Planning application room.
I remember the words that I said to the applicant, and I'm sure the committee will remember them. I say, in my day, when a member needed another room for a member of the family, you bought a bigger house.
Have you got a reason for refusal?
Okay, good reminder to members that you've only got the application on the front page of the website, and you can find the application. I'm going to demonstrate that right now. How easy it is to search on the site.
Well, that's what it is.
I know when it works.
Yeah, I mean, as I understood it, members, it was due to the size of the extension, related to the size of the plot and close proximity to the garden area number 9, would constitute undesirable background development and overdevelopment of the site, such as the detrimental to the enjoyment of the garden area and the residential amenities of its occupiers.
Don't we therefore have exactly the same thing here?
Well, that's what we're asking you. If you feel that this doesn't overcome the previous reasons for refusal, then members are entitled to come to that view. If, on the other hand, you think that it does, then again, you're entitled to say, well, yeah, we think it has addressed the reasons for refusal. And we're happy with it. But the main difference is, in terms of this proposal against the other, is the removal of the flat roof, the fact that it is a storage area and not a self-contained residential unit.
All right, Councillor Downs.
Yeah, it strikes me that we're faced very much with exactly what we had last time, and therefore I think we ought to be following in the same direction, and we ought to be refusing all the reasons given on the previous application. The fact that it doesn't have the same...
You make that proposal, Councillor
I'm
Downs?
happy to make that proposal, yes.
Right, do you have a second down? Councillor Latta? Yeah. Would you like to say anything else? No, I think it's been said. Okay, anybody wish to say anything else? We have a proposal that the application be refused on the same reasons as last time. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right, those against? 2. The application is refused, but it can go to appeal.
We're ready.
Okay, well done, ladies.
And gentlemen.
Oh, gentlemen. Right, that concludes the planning meeting.
G2 and then just 42.